They looked very similar to humans, but there was something otherworldly about them that I can't put my finger upon. 3 scary experiences from Reddit. The truth is out there. My friends would never believe this, but I have to tell someone. As a preface, I live alone. One night I was sitting at the kitchen table, writing in a notebook. When I finished for the night, I closed the book, and put my pencil on top of it. There was nothing else on the table. The next morning, I see the pencil on the table, but the book was gone. I searched everywhere for it: the refrigerator, the piano bench, under the bed, behind the sofa. It was gone. I started writing in a new notebook, figuring I'd stumble across the original, one of these days. When I finished, I closed it, and left the pencil on top. Again, there was nothing else on the table, just the book and pencil. For the next week, the pencil and notebook were there, exactly as I left them, until the 7th day. I walked into the kitchen, looked at the table and saw the original notebook underneath the one I'd been using all week, and yes, the pencil was on top. No, I don't have security cameras, but I do leave the security alarm on at night. No, I've never sleepwalked, nor has anyone in my biological family. No, I don't have any pets, as I'm still grieving the loss of my goodest boy. No, I don't drink or use drugs. No, I haven't been ill or had any shots lately. Thank you for letting me get this off of my chest. 32 years ago I had planned to bring my time on this planet to an end, but just before I did, a bright being physically appeared in my room, saving my life and changed the direction of my life. This is what really happened. What I'm sharing here actually happened 32 years ago. It is a basic outline. The actual experience went on for hours, and the details could fill volumes of books that I am still unpacking and understanding all these years later. It took me years to share this with people I felt close to. Even so, I knew they would struggle to understand. This experience happened when I was 23. I had a terrible childhood. My righteous religious Mormon parents screamed and hit me regularly. Fact is, they hadn't processed their own childhood PTSD. I knew I was gay when I was little and was horrified. I heard over and over again that this was the sin next to murder from Mormon church leaders. This drove me to a deep depression. At 11 I was abducted, in a public mall. The man was caught. It went to trial and I had to testify in an open court with this horrible man right across from me. I can still remember how he smelled. His scent would hit me from across the courtroom and I would jump in my seat having flashbacks. The monster went to jail for many years and then died. After it was over, my family said, "We will never talk about this ever again." Nice, eh? It would be too embarrassing for a good Mormon family. Actually, I really don't think they knew how to help me. The older I got, the more I realized being gay was not going away no matter how I prayed. I was horrified. I barely ate and was horribly thin. I turned totally gray at the age of 21 from the stress of it all. At 23, when the PTSD became too great, I had planned on ending my life. Then, this happened. A month before I left on my Mormon mission, I was staying with my grandmother. One night I awoke in the middle of the night. I was lying on my right side and saw that the room was very, very bright. Like a spotlight had been left on. I sat up, on my elbow, and looked out the window. It was still dark out. I turned and looked over my left shoulder, and in my room was standing a very tall, beautiful man. I say man, but this being could have been looked at as male or female, who was 7 feet, at least, tall next to my bed. He was wearing a simple wrap-around robe, only the fabric was made of light. Kind of like the colors on a soap bubble, only each one was alive and bright. This physical being of beautiful light illuminated the whole room like a supernova. Through thought he communicated, "Nothing to be afraid of, we are close friends, you just don't remember. And yes, you are awake. Look for yourself." I looked around and could see the tree outside, the furniture. I could touch the bed covers with my hands, so I knew I was awake. He repeated, telling me not to be afraid, through thought, that he was here to give me strength and knowledge and healing. He asked me to lay back down and to hold still, and then he physically placed his hands on me. I was laying on my right side again, one hand on the base of my head and one hand on the small of my back. I could feel the pressure and very warm heat coming from each of his hands on my body. Then he began to speak. These weren't words that he spoke, but the closest thing I can describe it was a conveyance of energy and knowing. This was pure love, and it sounded like celestial informational music, not words. I saw, and felt pure consciousness, love, light being to infuse into my body and soul from the contact of each of his hands. I literally could see this light flowing into my physical body, both from my physical eyes and my internal view of my being, as I would shut my eyes and open them again to look at him. Each atom in my body began to vibrate at this supersonic speed with this loving energy. Everything made perfect sense. The clarity was beyond my physical senses. This joy and euphoria was beyond any pinnacle of energy I have ever experienced since then. He showed me perfect beauty and perfect reality with perfect expanse of the totality of the universe. One where ego didn't exist. I could feel my consciousness expanding to connect to every person and living being on our planet, even trees and plants. Then out into the expanse of the universe. I could see galaxies and vast civilizations living on different planets. I saw I had lived on different planets, and these worlds felt very familiar. The big difference was they were advanced and loving. They weren't killing each other. They lived peacefully. As this symphony of energy flowed, it began to grow more intense and brighter. I remember thinking, my body can't take much more of this, and as soon as that thought hit, I fell into a whiteness that surrounded me, which dissipated when I woke up 12 hours later. The place of where his hands had touched me were tingling, warm, and literally pink like a sunburn. What followed was a significant change within me. All of the PTSD and horrible trauma from my childhood and abduction were gone. All suicidal thoughts were gone and have never returned in any way. My solar plexus completely changed. All those feelings of being worthless, and defective for being gay and being told how bad I was were gone. They were replaced by this self-assurance and self-worth that I had never experienced before. I also discovered I have a memory that far exceeds family and friends. Like I am this sponge that remembers everything with crazy detail. This has continued to this day. For years I have wondered who this being was and why I had that experience. This being was actually in my room and saved my life, healing me from years of emotional and physical trauma. This was not a Mormon angel. This was an advanced physical being infused with light, like a supernova, that was a helper and a healer. To this day I do not know why I had this experience. I didn't ask for it or request it. It just happened. I do know I would have ended my life had this being not helped me. The one thing I can say is this being felt very, very familiar. As if we were old friends. The Mormon religion I grew up in, any religion actually, did not come close to what I was shown. All religions looked like a bunch of man-made egoistic rules made up by power-hungry men using emotional blackmail, by way of guilt or fear or obligation manipulation, to control others for money. From what this being showed me, my views on LGBTQ+, especially self-acceptance of my being gay, and minorities, abortion, suicide, alcohol, coffee, euthanasia, etc. totally changed from that day on. I still went on my Mormon mission to NYC. Only on my mission I refused to knock on any door and sell religion. Instead I told my companions we would be helping the shut-in AIDS patients by delivering Red Cross food to them for lunch and dinner. My comps were mortified. Each one turned me into the mission pres. Luckily my two mission presidents were from California and told them to love your companion and follow his example. My entire mission, my comps and I, helped AIDS patients and homeless people. By the end of my mission I knew I would leave the church. I've never had another experience like this one. An advanced physical being showing up, but I have had many other positive spiritual experiences. I still don't drink or smoke or do drugs. I am a business owner and very successful and well educated and yes, free from any mental illness. Unfortunately society isn't open to these kinds of experiences, let alone members of any religion. Most try to make sense of these experiences by jamming them into their own views to fit their own agenda, be it to endorse their own cult or to label you as mentally ill, from schizophrenia to bipolar. I've been evaluated and am neither. As a result, those of us who have these kinds of experiences, that aren't accepted by society as whole, just don't talk about it until we are sure it is safe to do so. This is why this place is so valuable to us. We can share our experiences here without losing our income or deal with a tidal wave of never-ending negative feedback. One thing I have learned is all religions are a block to seeing the big picture of what the universe is truly about and who we really are. We really don't need a middle person, or organization. But that's okay. Life really is just an experience. There are no requirements to do, or not do. We really do need to just lighten up, and surround ourselves with loving people that we can be ourselves with and share the journey with. The more we accept and allow each person to share their experiences, the more we hear what fascinating things happen in this world as incarnated human beings. This happened in 2016, when I accompanied my paternal uncle to goddess Vindhyavasini temple located in Uttar Pradesh, one of the major Shaktipith, seat of the goddess, in India. My aunt had been stuck in labor for quite a while, and someone suggested that she may have fallen victim to a tantric ritual called bandhan, binding, that causes delay in childbirth. My uncle knew a priest in the temple who was considered to be adept in occult sciences and had reached out to him for help. We met the priest, who was dressed in a modest saffron robe and had an air of humbleness around him. I could not even suspect anything that was about to happen in the next few hours. He confirmed that someone had done a Masani Kaya, graveyard ritual, on my aunt, and if not reversed within time it could end up in miscarriage or even death. We were horrified and could not believe what was being told to us, but he assured us she could be saved provided we started the yagya, ceremonial fire, and other rituals on time. So, on the banks of river Ganges he lit a ceremonial fire and asked us to keep putting oblations into the fire when told. The ritual went on for quite a while, when the strangest thing I've ever experienced in my life happened. Suddenly, scores of subhuman creatures started coming from nowhere and began sitting around us in a circle. I cannot describe exactly how they looked, but all of them were stunted and had deformed legs or hands, with pus oozing out of their wounds. They looked very similar to humans, but there was something otherworldly about them that I can't put my finger upon. Now my uncle is a very serious and grumpy guy, you know the kind, and with the situation at hand, wasn't in a good mood that day. I could see he thought that those creatures were beggars and was about to tell them to bugger off. But the priest, who seemed unfazed by the bizarre situation, put a finger on his lips and gestured him to remain quiet. As the ritual was about to end, the creatures disappeared as strangely as they had arrived. After the ritual ended, the priest asked for a bit of time to dispose the residue of the yagya into the Ganges. Meanwhile, my uncle and I toured the entire temple to find out where those creatures could have gone, but in vain. When the priest returned, I asked him about what we had just seen. He explained that the spirits that were being used to torment our aunt had arrived to distract us from our ritual. Like humans, they are also attached to the earth and do not want to cross over. Had one of us reacted or got up from our place, the ritual would have failed and our aunt would be doomed. This is the reason he had gestured us to remain calm. Curiosity arose in my mind and I asked, "Have you ever seen God?" "No, but I have seen the devil," he said. I was bewildered to hear this because, apart from the obvious vision of the devil himself, Satan is predominantly a Christian spirit and the priest was an Orthodox Hindu. Moreover, the concept of Satan, Lucifer, Shaitan does not exist in Hinduism. Before I became a priest, I was a Vimachari, left-hand tantric, and had once got a chance to perform a ritual in an abandoned Christian graveyard. The specifics of the ritual are arcane, but you have to write a mantra on a piece of paper and make a wick out of it. The wick is then placed in an oil lamp, and set alight. During midnight, 11 rounds of the mantra are to be recited in the graveyard while the wick is burning. Now, these demons do not like anyone trying to gain power over them and will do anything possible to distract from the ritual. Sometimes, you'll see maidens wearing diaphanous garments strutting around the graveyard and hear their anklets tinkling. At other times, you'll hear the voices of your family screaming for help, babies crying and other hallucinations. If you sit steadfast, perform the ritual for 21 continuous days and not get distracted, the prince of demons, Satan himself, comes on the last day and begs for the oil left in the lamp. I describe Satan as being black, extremely hairy with horns, and walks with his hands and feet to the ground like an animal. He also makes a cocoa sound. This part is extremely treacherous, since it's a trap laid out by Satan to distract the practitioner. You have to give the oil to Satan, after which Satan will tempt you to ask for anything you want. If at this point, you ask for anything, be it riches, women, or what have you, or refuse to give the oil, you are doomed and will have to suffer from lunacy throughout the remainder of your miserable life. The only acceptable request is to ask Satan to leave you alone so you can complete your ritual in peace. Once the ritual is complete, you'll gain the ability to exorcise any demon with ease. Suddenly my uncle's mobile rang. It was the midwife calling to inform that his son had been delivered safely. I wish I could tell you that attacks on my aunt ceased after this event. They didn't. In the years to follow, my uncle would sometimes find pieces of dog bones tightly wrapped in red cloth scattered around the precarious corners of the house. But that is another story. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments below.